All right. How is it going, everyone? Welcome to the very first Mixcraft stream. I am your host, Cameron, also known as Venus Theory. Let's make sure we are live and rocking and rolling here. Get this up on my phone so we can see all the people in the chat. Excellent. Looks like we've got sound. Everyone is here from Colorado, Buffalo, New York, upstate New York, Nashville, India, Germany, from Oz. Man, we got people from everywhere here. Welcome. I am Cameron, also known as Venus Theory. I will be your guide today into the world of mixing and stuff inside of Mixcraft. So, today I'm pretty excited. We are going to be working through a session that is a multi-track session. It's kind of like a pop rock tune. We're going to work from start to finish. We're going to go for about an hour and see what we can get done given the amount of time. And then we are going to do some Q&A at the end for about half an hour. If you can't stay for the entire stream, this whole thing is going to be reposted later, so you can use this same link to come back and rewatch it, or check it out if you missed it, or share it with your friends or whoever, and you can rewatch it again to your heart's content. So, let me give myself a bit more volume there. So, what I have here is a multi-track session which is actually free. You can download this entire project and all of these stems from a free site that my handy-dandy moderator can link here. This is from a really excellent book called Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio by Mike Sr. Now, this is a really handy resource because it's a bunch of different styles of songs that you can practice mixing with. So that's what we're going to be using here today. If you are into reading at all, I highly, highly recommend checking out the book. It's called Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio by Mike Sr. It is absolutely fantastic. It is one of the best books you can read for mixing, and I swear by that thing. Looks like we got people here. Toronto, Spain, Florida, Glasgow, Memphis, Texas, Chicago. All right. Chicago. All right. Cool. So, I kind of wanted to walk through a couple of quick things here. We're going to walk through my process and kind of the how and why of mixing, and I'm going to explain myself along the way as best I can. We will have time for questions at the very end, so please hold your questions until then. I will try to maybe answer questions as we go, but for the sake of time, I think we're just going to try and work as effectively as possible. Also, yeah, Mixcraft on sale right now. If you don't have Mixcraft and maybe looking to get into making some music, or you already have Mixcraft and you're looking to upgrade to Pro Studio or upgrade to Mixcraft 9, there's a bunch of sales going on right now at acoustica.com. There's also a handy link to pick up a copy of Mixcraft on sale as well. So it's an excellent DAW. It's a lot of fun, and we're going to show that here today. Let's go ahead and get things started. Make sure we're still rocking and rolling here. It happens that I have that book. It is a great book. If you have that book, I hope you know what I'm talking about. That is one of the best books I've ever read on mixing and everything. Recording Secrets also, but yeah, excellent, excellent book. Absolutely go pick it up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that on my phone here just so I can work through my notes. We are going to take a listen here to the final version. This is a version I've mixed prior to this session. I spent about 4 hours on it. It's not totally done just because, you know, I kind of did this quickly, but this, I guess, it would represent kind of the final end goal here of what we could achieve with enough time, and this is probably something I would look to deliver to the client. So let's take a listen to the final result, and then we'll open up the raw session and start mixing.
again.
Cool. So that is kind of the final version of this. Like I said, I spent maybe 3 or 4 hours doing this mix down. Not totally finished, but that's kind of the end idea here. So as mentioned, you can actually get all of these stems here today if you want to practice this song for yourself or a whole bunch of other songs. There's tons of different styles from like acoustic singer-songwriter to rock and super heavy metal, dubstep, and just about everything in between. So it's a fantastic resource to really practice your mixing chops in a lot of different styles and get something that you might have not wrote yourself. I feel, we kind of treat our own music a certain way. So it's nice to engineer something that you have no control over. You get just what you get and you've got to work with it. So let's go ahead and open up the raw version of this project and start working from that. So that was in my folder here. Excellent. Make sure this is all closed off. We don't have a bunch of sessions running. Cool. So this is the raw session, and there's a couple things that I think are really important when you approach a mixing session, just from a purely technical standpoint. A few things I always address when I'm working with a mix is what is the style and what are the common elements of that style. So this is a very kind of pop rock, indie rock sort of vibe. So some of the things I'm thinking there, we want a raw sound. We don't want it to be heavily polished and ridiculous. We want it to be a little bit raw and grungy. We want kind of some crunchy vocals. We want some big fuzzy guitars. We want that kind of warm hug feeling to the mix, but we want it to feel authentic because, the vocalist and the song is trying to communicate something that's identifiable. So we want to make sure our mixing reflects that. Other things that are common to the style, we kind of want some big pumping rock drums. We want some kind of dreamy keys and other stuff like that. Another good thing to figure out before we get started is a comparable reference. I need something to A-B between. If you don't use reference tracks, it's a really good thing I recommend you try out. It's a good way to make sure that your mix versus another mix kind of work together and sound comparable. You don't want it to sound identical, but you want something that's similar. So for my reference, and I can't show this here on the stream today for copyright reasons, I think this reminds me a lot of a band called Collective Soul from the 90s. Some of you may be familiar with them. This reminds me a lot of Collective Soul's Blue album. So that would probably be the album I would pull up on my computer as well, just to listen to and see kind of how things are balanced and use that as my frame of reference. Another thing, who is the client? In this case, it is a band called Moo's Music, or Moo Music, something like that. And these guys are a bit older, so they're going to have higher expectations than maybe a group of, young 20-somethings or teenagers who have never really recorded anything before. So we want to obviously deliver a professional result and make their song fit their vision. So other than that, we're going to assume that they don't want any parts replaced or heavily edited. I would be tempted personally to do some drum replacement and add some extra parts like an organ or a synth here or there for the sake of making this track really big, but let's just say the client doesn't want that, and for the sake of time here today. So the other big thing is that arrangement is always bigger than mixing. Before I start mixing, one of the biggest things I ask myself when I'm recording my own music or working with a band is this song as good as it could be? Is there anything else we could do to make this song sound better? A couple things I did in this session were to add some extra drum parts. If I open my drum folder, I've added the drums from the verse and moved them into the chorus to make the chorus feel a bit bigger, because originally the chorus was actually just this like sampled drum kit, which is simply a kick, a hi-hat, and a really, really big electronic snare. So that just felt a little boring to listen to. So adding, some acoustic drums really filled that out. Another trick I did is just add some percussion. I went into the Mixcraft library here and just searched for percussion loops, and I found a bunch of shakers and tambourines and all sorts of stuff to give it this big energetic chorus. So I've got all these little layers of percussion and stuff to fill it out. That also comes from the title of the song. It's called Big Dummy Shake. So with Big Dummy Shake, that makes me think of shaking and shakers. So, I wanted to incorporate shakers and some extra percussion. There was a little bit in the original arrangement, but I just wanted to bring that out a bit. So now that we've got all that done, we've got all this put together, the first thing I'm going to do is group all my stuff. So you can see I've already done that here. I've got just all my things bounced into little sections. So I've got all the vocals in a folder called vocals. The backing vocals go to backing vocals. The guitars, there's a bunch of guitars. Those are all bussed down together. The Rhodes is left alone because it's kind of its own thing. The bass is a DI signal. I left that alone, so it's just the bass. Percussion all gets sent to a bus called percussion. Drums all go to drums. The room is actually a stereo setup here, so there's room left and room right. So I just bust those together to create one room mic. And then down at the bottom is the sampled kit, and that's it. So for my session here today, I also customized my mixer in Mixcraft just because I don't need a lot of the features that it has for right now. So what I did is just went to the preferences here and got rid of the compressor, drive, EQ, parametric EQ, oscilloscope, and frequency view. I just don't need that. I really just need faders, and the rest we're going to use plugins. So let's collapse all this down here to get this session to be a bit more manageable. And let's begin by taking a listen to the first section of the song, maybe like the intro through to the first chorus. And we're just going to listen to the raw elements here. So this is probably going to sound pretty gross, but it's going to give us an idea of what we're working with and the immediate short-term goals of the track. Because I find in a mixdown session, often a lot of your big decisions and the big changes happen in the first like 20 to 30 minutes. Everything else after that is just detail work. So this, as you can see in my mixer, is a lot more manageable here too, because we've got only a couple faders here. We've got 7 faders instead of like 30 multi-tracks. So that makes life a lot easier. So let's take a listen and see what we have got here just to get things started with. So that is where we are at right now, and I think it's pretty obvious that this does not sound great. So when I mix, another big tip is just don't touch anything. Don't touch all the EQs and stuff yet. We're going to start with just our faders. We want to get a level, and then from there we can start to address problems. Mixing is a really simple, fundamental process. We're just mixing elements together. That's all that this is. And we're going to use tools to help that process. But the big thing is just balancing stuff out and solving problems. It's really simple things. It's these simpler operations that we do little iterative steps to that give us a nice end result. So because this is a vocal-centric song, we are going to just lead the vocal. We're going to work everything around that, because when we have a lead vocal, that in 99% of the cases of vocal-centric music is the star of the show. So we need to do everything we can to make that vocal sound really, really good and make everything else in the song work to serve that vocal. So we're going to go ahead and skip ahead here. Let's find kind of the main section. I think we'll just kind of loop the verse through the first chorus, something like that, just so we kind of have a basic section to work with. I think the chorus ends here. Yeah, so the chorus ends there. We'll just grab this, hit L to loop it, bring it back, and start layering all this together. Looks like I accidentally dragged my guitars into that folder too. Whoops. All right, now let's drop that down. So we'll minimize the guitars and start finding a good level for these vocals.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night. Whoa, every night.
So that seems pretty good. Another thing is we want to make sure we're listening at a pretty healthy level. I'm not listening loud. You want to be very careful when you're mixing, especially with headphones, not to blast your ears. So I'm just listening at a level that I would normally listen to music at. So I kind of want to just base everything around that.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night.
So that feels good. Let's start working in the other elements here. So we've got our vocal at the level, and I think we're going to start bringing in the fundamentals. Let's bring in the drums and the bass to lay the foundation for the song, and then we'll bring in kind of the accent elements, you know, the guitars and all that stuff.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night. Whoa, every night. See, she got a brand new friend, gonna pay the old bills, gonna have a good time, reminisce about the better ones. Whoa, better ones.
So that seems good. I know the bass is a DI, so let's go ahead and grab the Studio Devil bass amp.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in.
That's already sounded way better.
Every night. Whoa, every night.
Cool.
See, she got a brand new friend.
Let's get some guitars. So I can already hear there the guitars and the vocal are really fighting for space in the mix, so that's going to be one of the first problems we're going to need to address here.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night. Whoa, every night. See, she got a brand new
I think that level's okay.
gonna pay the
Now let's go into the chorus here. Let's start bringing in that sampled drum kit, the electronic drums. Now, we've got two drum kits here, and this might be a problem when you're mixing because we already have our main drum kit. So how do we work in two drum kits at once? In this case, we have to prioritize. In my mind, the acoustic drums are going to take the front here. This is a real drummer playing real drums, and this is a real song with real instruments and real vocals and stuff. So I want to lean into that side of things. I don't want to lean into the super polished electronic stuff. So I want to use the electronic drums just to thicken out the drums a little bit. I want to work it in subtly so it just layers nicely. It's not going to overtake it and become the center of the show. It's just going to add something to the chorus to really make it pop. So I'm going to solo the drums and I'm going to start blending the electronic ones in. I think that feels pretty good. There's not too much of a difference. There's just a subtle lift in the energy to the drums, so I think that feels good. Let's start working in our percussion here.
every night. See, she got a brand new friend, gonna pay the old bills, gonna have a good time, reminisce about the better one. Whoa, better one.
Cowbell's always great.
'Cause this is so serious.
I think that's feeling good. I mean, that's a pretty good balance.
Pull it back again. Oh, back again. Baby's got
So there's a couple annoying things on the guitar side, I think, in the chorus, but we'll get there later. So now let's work in that Rhodes, which is our last track here. Everything else is already blended in.
baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new.
So there's a bit of a difference in energy there. So let's try and work that in a bit better.
Baby's got a porcelain.
And I think that's good. That's a pretty good balance. Everything feels pretty level. So let's start moving on here to address some of the problems. One of the first things I want to do here is go on my master bus, and I'm going to grab a plugin to crush everything down to mono. So I'm going to use one called PSP Master Q2. It's just a mastering EQ, but I'm going to use this width control to sum everything to mono. This is a really handy way to mix because it forces us to make really good EQ decisions and helps us figure out where things are competing. So we'll have that ready to go. For now, I'm going to set the width to 100. We're not going to collapse it yet because first I want to work out some of the panning of the elements. Let's get started with, let's do the guitars first.
Venus got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch through the skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night. Oh, every night. See, she got a brand new friend, gonna pay the old bills, gonna have a good time, reminisce about the better one. Oh, better one. 'Cause this is so.
So there, we've got our guitars panned out in the verse. Let's maybe not pan them as hard. Let's do about 40% left and right. And that way, when we get to the chorus, I can pan those other guitars out really, really far. So the chorus is going to feel really big comparatively. So we're going to kind of trick the listener. We don't want to give away everything quite yet. We want to save a little bit of that room and that energy for the big chorus, because that's kind of the most important part of this style. Then we've got that like squawky lead guitar here. And I kind of want to hide that below the other guitars. I think those guitars in the chorus are pretty loud too. They're overtaking the vocal quite a bit. Let's start working out that percussion, because some of those percussion elements are really loud. Let's pan the percussion out a little bit here too, just to add a bit of space, get things out of the way of the vocal. Feeling pretty good. And that's where things get really, really loud, because there's a lot of shaker layers. So let's kind of work those in one at a time and really push them back. So let's pan these out really far. Give it this nice wide stereo image on the chorus. Tambourine's real, real loud. Cool, I think that is... That's feeling all right. Got a reverse cymbal. Let's see where that wood block comes in, because we've got a couple other layers here that we haven't used yet, because the last chorus has an extra tambourine part just to make it feel even more energetic. And I see we have a wood block. Looks like that's maybe used in the bridge. Yep. So other than that, I think we've got everything kind of mixed-ish. Let's work on our drums now a little bit, because the drums sound a little weak. Probably just a bit too roomy. So let's open up the room mics here and pan those hard left and hard right, because we've got room left and room right. Let's move back to the verse. I want to get rid of some of that room just to make the drums pop a bit. I want to really focus the drums on that snap. And we'll probably turn the overheads down a bit too. Cymbal's pretty loud. figure out our kick here, because our kick drum, we've got a kick in and kick out. Oh, that was the snare. Whoops. So we got kick in, kick out. So the kick out is probably going to be the low end of the bass drum. The kick in, I hear a bit more click in that, so that's going to be kind of our high end. So we're not going to need as much of that. We're mostly going to want the thump of the kick.
If I walk away every time, oh, every time, 'cause this is so serious, getting right to your beat on a shake.
That hi-hat from the electric drums is really loud.
If I walk away, getting right to your beat on a shake.
And that kick from the electric kit is also
Getting right to your beat on a shake.
pretty ridiculously loud. I think this is feeling good. We've got a pretty good balance now.
She's got a brand new song, she just sings it too loud, but I make it alright if I walk away every time.
Let's make sure we're happy with that balance.
Oh, every time.
Maybe a little less guitar.
'Cause this is so serious, getting right to your beat on a shake and pull it back again.
A little more vocal.
Oh, I'm back
Those backing vocals are really loud.
so serious, getting right to your beat on a shake and pull it back again. Oh, I'm back again.
Cool. I think that's feeling good. Let's pan out those backing vocals just to get a nice big chorus. Really good vocal too, and that's always good when we have a nice vocal to work with that we don't have to sit here and tune and tweak and fiddle with. I think we just need to pan that. Got a little bit of clipping in that one. I think that's sitting a little heavy on the left side for me. Cool. I think that balances well. Let's try that against the main vocal.
So serious, getting right to your beat on a shake and pull it back again. Oh, I'm back again.
So let's work on that bridge now, because that's the part I haven't touched yet, because we've got some other guitars. Cool. All right, so now we're going to move on. I think we've got our balance done. Now we're going to start solving some problems. So I think first up, let's just get the vocal working, and we'll kind of weave everything around that. Kick and snare need to be a bit louder. Yeah, so right now the kick and snare are really balanced, and we're going to work on getting them to smack a bit harder here in a minute with some cool tricks. So right now I'm just doing balance. We're not going to worry about adding transient information or compression or anything like that just yet. We're going to work on balance first, and then we're going to start working out the problems. But yeah, that's definitely one of them, is we really want those drums to start smacking here. So let's solo out this vocal.
So serious, it ain't right to your beat, I'ma shake and pull it back again. Oh, I'm back again.
So it's pretty well recorded. We don't really have any issues there. We might go in and do some breath edits, but I don't really think that's necessary, and we don't really have time for that here today. So I'm going to grab a parametric EQ and a TB compressor. So we're going to try and stick to mostly Mixcraft plugins here today, but we may use some extra stuff. So first up, there's a bit of mud in that vocal.
So serious, it ain't right. Do your big dumb shit and pull it back again. Oh,
So I'm gonna pull up.
back again.
I'm gonna pull up a high pass and go up until it's too thin, and then back off a bit. Now I'm gonna find there's kind of a boxy, sort of nasally feel in maybe about 400 hertz.
Serious, it ain't right. Do your big dumb shit and pull it back again. Oh, I'm back again.
And right there, I mean, we can hear now we've got a lot more clarity to the vocal. Let's add a bit of high end.
Oh, serious, it ain't right. Do your big dumb shit and pull.
So now we've got a vocal that's nice and bright. It's nice and forward. Probably a bit too much brightness. And then let's add a little bit of energy, probably around 3K, just to make sure it translates.
Serious, it ain't right. Do your big dumb shit and pull it back again.
Right about there.
Oh,
One of the other problems I heard as we listened through is that the vocal has a hard time finding a good level. I would almost have to sit there and ride the fader, and I don't want to do that too much, just because that's a bit tedious. So I'm going to go with a compressor here, squeeze this down for about 10 dB of compression or so.
serious, it ain't right. Do your big dumb shit and pull it back
We'll
again.
AB to make sure we compensate.
Oh, I'm back again.
Maybe a bit harder on the compressor.
And if it's all just the same to you, then
Give it that kind of
could you
aggressive
tell
compression.
me truly, are you human? And if it's all just the same to you,
There we go.
then could you tell me truly, are you human?
We're going to grab a little de-esser.
Baby's had a bad, bad day. It would seem we have to pay for the pleasure of peace, for a place in a sweeter seats.
The vocal's not too sibilant. It sounds
Oh,
like
sweeter seats.
sounds like it was probably recorded with just a dynamic mic, so not too bright and annoying. But I think that should cut through the mix nicely.
Then could you tell me truly, are you human?
Bring them up a bit.
And if it's all just the same to you, then could you tell me truly, are you human?
Cool. We could probably copy that to the backing vocals. We're just going to change the EQ on the backing vocals a little bit, because we don't want the backing vocals to compete with the lead vocal. So I'm going to warm up the backing vocals, actually. We're going to bring back a little bit of that boxiness. We'll maybe add a little bit of 200 hertz or so. Give it that kind of nice choir in a big room feel. And instead of increasing the high end, we're actually going to decrease the high end on that.
Back again. Oh,
So that way those vocals don't oversect each other. We got a nice clear separation between them because we're doing complementary EQ work.
back again. Oh, I'm back again.
I'm going to open up the attack on the lead just to get a bit more of that consonant through.
And if it's all just the same to you, then could you tell me truly, are you human?
I think that sounds pretty good.
And if it's all just the same to you, then could you tell me truly, are you human?
Cool.
Baby's had a bad, bad day. It would seem we have to pay.
So my next problem I think I'm going to do is guitars. They'll be relatively easy. The guitars just sound a bit boring. Let's work on these. Those are very muffled. Let's cut the low end. Save that for our bass. Warm them up a bit with some low mids. Add some 6K or so. 7K, seems like. Copy that over. Let's work on this one for a minute. That one needs a pretty extreme boost for a bit of grit.
Sings it too loud, but I make it alright if I walk away every time. Whoa, every time. 'Cause this is so serious.
Now we're starting to rock a bit. This is starting to feel pretty good. Let's get that chorus guitar sound. So that probably needs to be a bit brighter as well. It's not as like muddy and gross like the verse guitars. So let's actually just loop our chorus. We can start working on that. And I want to leave a bit of extra room here for the bass, because we've got that subby kick as well. That should be okay. Those should cut through nicely.
Dumb as shit can pull it back again. Oh.
So let's figure out this one. This has got some really annoying frequencies. I think we'll throw a little bit of delay on that too. So just kind of a wide ping pong delay to give it some space.
Again. So serious, it ain't right to your big dumb as shit can pull it back again. Oh.
I think that sounded pretty good. I think the guitars are sounding nice now. Drums are probably our next problem.
And if it's all just
So let's fix these. That one on the left is super annoying. I want to make a lot of room for the vocal. And we've got that Rhodes too. So I'm going to kind of push that one out of the way. The clean guitar on the right, though, I really like the tone of that. I like the barkiness. It's got some almost like bell-like tones in the low mids. So we'll just bring that out. Kind of a nice chimey, almost like a Vox AC30 type feel.
are you human? Are you human?
Now let's figure out this Rhodes. I think I'm going to copy the delay we did. Again, add some nice space. Let's add like a phaser. Give it kind of like a trippy indie rock vibe. Let's do some EQ. So this is probably going to fight with the guitars the most. So I'm going to listen to both of these at the same time to try and find the space for it in the mix. So it seems like it's mostly going to live in like 2K. It's just a subtle layer, it's not a leading element. That's feeling pretty good. Let's see how that sounds in the mix.
And if it's all just the same to you, then could you tell me truly, are you human?
Alright, looks like we got about 20 minutes left on the clock, so let's nail these drums down. I think the percussion bus, honestly, we just need maybe a bit of reverb. Probably not, actually. There's a little bit of low rumble. It sounds like just like maybe some tone in the room. So we'll just cut that out. Just brighten up the percussion a bit. Everything else feels nice.
Could you tell me truly, are you human? Baby's had a bad, bad day.
Let's get these drums going. So like the first thing I'm going to do is a compressor on the drums and really make them smack. Open up the attack to get a bit more transient here. Make sure we're compensating. So let's loop the drums here for a minute. Just so we can get an idea of how we want to do this. I think the room is annoying. Overheads too, still pretty loud. Let's blend that compressor in parallel. So I'm going to drop the wet out. That way we get a bit of the dry, uncompressed signal. Let's work on our kick here. So the kick microphone is also picking up a lot of the snare. So I'm going to grab a gate. Just try and tighten up that sound a bit. Other kick mic had the same problem. So let's grab an EQ here. I'm going to cut the low end out of the kick in, because that's going to be our click to the kick, like the snap layer. Cool. Let's add some low end. And then we're going to add just kind of some polish to the whole mix, and we should be pretty much good. So I'm going to high pass the other kick layer as well here, but what's cool with the low cut is we can increase the Q factor to get a boost. And now we've got that nice deep kick drum, but we've left this really low information for our bass guitar. So we've got a really heavy mix now.
I'm back again.
I think another tool we'll grab really quick is actually a transient shaper. So I'm going to use this to add a bit of snap to the kick and the snare. And I'm also going to drop the sustain so we don't get as much ringing. Cool. I think we'll do the same to the snare. So let's just copy our transient shaper. Copy our gate. Snare doesn't need as much transient though. It's already pretty punchy. It just needs to get rid of the sustain. Let's grab our EQ here. I just want to add a bit more high end to the snare. So, for some quick compression, I'm going to crush that room mic, because I don't know about you guys, I love the sound of just a really crushed room microphone. I think it makes drums sound so good. Yeah, man. Blend in a bit of the original. Let's try that.
Oh, every time, 'cause this is so serious. It ain't right to your beat. Tell me shit can pull it back again. Rest the night. See, she's got a brand new song. She just sings it too loud. But I make it alright if I walk away every time.
Probably do the same to the overheads.
Oh, every time. 'Cause this is so serious. It ain't right to your beat. Tell me shit can pull.
Let's make a few quick tweaks here, because we're almost out of time. So I'm going to shape that kick drum. Do the same to the snare, because the snare is really boof. Now it's nice and snappy. Let's do some quick EQ work on these drums. Snare's got a lot of low end, so that's got to go. There we go. Add a bit of mid-range. Cool. Hat has just some like rumble to it, it sounds like. Just some kind of noise to it. I don't know what it is. Let's just get rid of it. All right, cool. Let's see what we got. All right. So we'll go back to our master cue that we added, and we're going to move the mix down to mono just to check it really quick. Make sure we can hear everything well. Make sure we're hydrated. Yeah, everything's cutting great. Backing vocals could go up, though. They're really quiet. Cool. I think we're good. Let's start adding a couple effects to the vocal. I'm going to right-click and add a couple of sends here. So this is kind of a vintage rock vibe. So let's add a slap echo and a verb. And then I want that kind of big modern sound to the vocal. So I'm going to add another send, and I'm going to do something kind of cool with a widener. So let's start off with a slapback echo. Just going to use Slappy here, which is a really cheap slapback plugin. We'll drop the feedback pretty low and set the time to something pretty low. So I'm going to add that to these vocals. Let's solo those out and just get an idea of this vocal mix.
But I make it alright if I walk away every time.
Gives it kind of a cool retro.
Whoa, every time. Cause this is so serious.
Excellent.
It ain't right. Do your big dumb shit, can pull it back again.
Let's add a reverb.
Oh, I'm back again.
So that reverb's pretty bright.
And if
I'm going to grab a EQ on that, and I'm going to get rid of the high end of the reverb to make sure that I'm not getting a bunch of, you know, like noise from the vocal. We'll cut that. We'll cut out the lows because we don't want to get any rumble from the reverb.
if I walk away every time.
And there's kind of a honky wah sound. We'll find that.
Whoa, every time.
Right there. We'll cut that down.
This is so serious.
Blend it in.
Ain't right. Do your big dumb shit, can pull it back again.
We don't want it to be obvious.
Oh.
Cool. And backing vocals are getting sent there too. And now what I'm going to grab is a really cool effect called an ensemble chorus. An ensemble chorus has a bunch of different voices. It's like multiple chorus units at the same time. And I'm going to use random detuning, and I'm going to mix this in all the way, but I'm going to mix this in like just barely in the mix. And I want to add spread so it's really wide, and we're going to get this big lush vocal sound, but you're not going to know why, and it's a really, really great trick. So I'm going to detune this only the tiniest amount. I want it to feel like there's like 10 people singing. So normally you would automate this too. I'd bring this in the chorus, and like in the verses, I would back it off. So then the choruses just sound really big. So let's just push that into the widener here.
Whoa, every time.
And you can hear immediately.
'Cause this is so.
I mean, that vocal just sounds huge now. But obviously this is like really, really obvious. So we're going to just barely work this in.
Whoa, every time. 'Cause this is so serious. It ain't right. Do your big dumb shit, can pull it back again. Oh.
Cool. Okay, so we've got 8 minutes left, and then we're going to start doing questions. What do we want to do in the next 8 minutes that will really make this sound good? I want to distort the guitars. I'm going to add like a fuzzy distortion to the guitars. So now I'm doing this to all the guitars. I'm applying this effect to the entire guitar bus. Yeah. That adds a great raspy feel. I feel like the bass could be more apparent. I'm going to add a distortion to the bass guitar. And I'm just going to work that in a little bit. Nice. I feel like the drums could be brighter, so I'm going to grab an EQ and just put it on the entire drum bus. Maybe a little more kick. I feel like the vocals could be just a little bit brighter too, so I'm going to grab a special type of EQ here. So I'm going to use what's called the E27 EQ. This is based on a really famous hardware EQ, and it's got this magical boost at 28K, which is a really high frequency, which is just going to add this great sheen to the vocals. All right, I think let's add a little bit of bus compression to the entire mix. Let me grab I want to grab like a optical compressor. We'll do a bit of mastering EQ sort of stuff just to get everything sounding good. Let's see what this sounds like. Excellent. All right, and to finalize this, because we have 4 minutes left, I'm going to use a tool here to check this against another song. So I'm going to look for a rock song. Coach, that's Audio Slave, I think. So that's a good enough reference. Look at that. So our mix is maybe a bit too bright, and I think it's because of the drums and the hi-hats. So let's drop the drums down a bit. The high end of the drums, at least. And I think that vocal's probably a bit too bright now, so let's drop off a little bit of the vocal. I think that sounds great. All right, now that we've got all that done, let's take a listen to the final product, shall we? And then we will answer your questions. I'm gonna add a distortion to those electronic drums.
I'm back again.
Very cool. I mean, I think outside of a few tweaks, some automation, and like some fine tuning, that's a pretty good result for about an hour. And then obviously we would need to like properly master it, but I think I'm happy with that. So now it is time for your questions. If you have questions about anything that you saw here today, feel free to ask. I'd be happy to explain. We've got about half an hour for questions here. If you want to download the stems from this session, like I said, you can actually get all of these multi-track files for free. So you can download this exact song and practice mixing it yourself. This whole stream will be reposted as well. So if you've got to go, that's fine. You can rewatch it later. Yeah, let's answer some questions and dive into all this, because that's fun. I love mixing. That was a pretty productive session. I think we worked effectively and we got it done. And I feel like this is something, after a bit of tweaking, I could send a client and I would be happy with. What's your take on using gain staging instead of writing the faders? I mean, gain staging isn't really writing the faders. Those are kind of two separate processes. Gain staging is making sure the level of something is where it should be in order to get the full utilization of the travel path of the fader. So you might be referring to compression versus writing the fader. Personally, I'm a bit lazy. I like to not ride the fader as much as possible. It is a good way to get a nice balance, though, especially for stuff that's a bit more delicate. I find whenever I've done stuff with like jazz, like jazzier, slower things, or singer-songwriter, acoustic type things, then riding the fader is usually better than using a compressor. It just really depends on the mix. Nicely done. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Why do some folks use multiple DAWs? Does this assist with calibration or collaboration? It just depends. You know, different DAWs do different things. So it just depends on kind of what you need to do. You know, it's different. It's like different plugins. People use different plugins because there's different tools for the job. And, you know, people have their preferences. I think people like certain EQs just because they like them. You know, I think it's more just, you know, what you're used to and what you enjoy working with. If it makes you excited to work with it, then use it. How do you print the mix to an outboard compressor? There is actually a Mixcraft video on the channel about that. You would need to have a audio interface that has an output and then a return path. So you would send this out by using the output track, and then you would bring it back into the session. There's a video on that, and I believe that's in the manual as well. But if you need more details on that, our support folks should be able to help you. Why don't you use colors on your tracks? I normally do. I normally color all my tracks. Here, for the sake of time today, I did not. But normally I would, yeah. So that's a really good tip. Like if I've got vocals, I would normally go in and color these to be all the same color. So that way when I look at my session, I can very quickly get an idea of what is what and where things are. So yeah, normally coloring your tracks, very good idea. You should definitely do that. And name your tracks. Always name your tracks too. Sweet stream, thanks. Well, thank you for watching. Glad you liked it. Fantastic work with EQ, very helpful. Glad to hear it. EQ and compression, I think, are two of the most powerful tools a producer has. Those are the two best things you can learn. What do you use for VU meters? Well, I'll usually kind of just watch the faders in Mixcraft. I also have a couple metering tools. M Loudness Analyzer. This is from Melda Productions. This is a free plugin that you can get. This has got all sorts of metering modes. Another one I use is PSP Triple Meter, which is a pretty cheap metering plugin. So this has VU meters, RMS, and PPM meters. So this is another really handy tool. I don't remember how much this costs, but it's pretty cheap. But this is my usual VU meter. You did a great job. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Plenty of free VU meters. Yeah, I'm sure there's like 1,000 of them. Love the mix. Do you get clients asking for advice on mixing for live gigs too, or is it just accept there's a big live and album difference? I haven't really done much live mixing. I've done some front of house stuff like here and there over the years. It's really not something I would consider myself an expert at by any means. I think It's a hard question to answer because it also really depends on the room. I think much like a good mastering engineer, a good front of house live engineer is a very special unicorn. So, I'm probably not the right person to answer that. I just know, I know sort of how to run a front of house system and mix for a live application, but definitely two entirely different worlds, at least in my mind. Royalty music, thanks. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for answering my question. No problem. What rules of thumb, if any, do you tend to follow when creating frequency space separation? One of the biggest things, like I showed kind of earlier, is I always check in mono. That's one of the best ways to make sure that you're not having competition, because we naturally tend to, we balance our faders and then we tend to pan stuff out just so it's like out of the way. But if you pan everything out, you're not really able to hear the competition of things. So summing down to mono is a great way to make sure you've made good EQ decisions, because it makes the audio mask itself. So it's a really easy way to listen to everything just totally monoed out and say, okay, this part it's hard to hear the vocals in, or at this part, the lead guitar is too washed out, or the drums sound really phasey because you didn't get the phase alignment right on the mic setup or something. So yeah, checking in mono is probably one of the biggest things, I think, just to really make sure you've got enough frequency separation. Another thing, like I said, is complementary EQ. We did that with the vocals here. If you look at the lead vocal here on the left and the backing vocal on the right, you'll see that I boosted the high end here and I took the high end out on the backing vocals. I took out some of this kind of low mid boxiness, sort of roundness, boxiness, depending on what you want to call it, at about 500 hertz. But on the backing vocal, I actually brought that back in, and I also added a little bit more of it. That way, I've got two complementary layers together. So that way, when the backing vocals are going, the lead vocal is still going to cut, and the backing vocals are going to kind of complement it and fill out the space. So whenever you're doing something like that where you're boosting something, you should always be asking yourself, what could I take away from something else? So in this case, I'm adding high end to the vocals, so I want to take away from the backing vocal, and that applies to everything. If I'm boosting the high end of my drums, I've got to make sure that high end isn't needed for everything else. So it's all about making sure you're making good decisions that work well to create something bigger than the sum of its parts. Is there a quick way to group your tracks? There is. There's a really cool way to do that. In Mixcraft, you can click a track and then control click another track. So we've got these two selected. Then we can right click, go to insert track and submix track, and that actually grouped that together. So now it's called submix 8, and those tracks are grouped together. So that's actually what I did when I was organizing this session. I just clicked all my guitar tracks, and then I right clicked, added a submix track, and called it guitars, and did that for drums, vocals, percussion, everything else. Is it best to mix with headphones or studio monitors? It is best to mix with whatever you can get good results with. It's really good to mix with good monitors if you have a good room to listen in. If you have an untreated room, monitors aren't going to do you much good, so I would recommend a really good pair of mixing headphones. Mixing headphones and regular headphones are two very different things. So you want a good pair of mixing headphones and a nice room to work in, but ideally you check your mixes on a lot of different systems after the fact. So normally, at this point, I would play this through my speakers. I would play it in my kitchen speakers. I would play it on my phone. I would check it in my car. I also have some, I think they're in my backpack right now. I have some cheap, like Apple iPod headphones, like old, cheap Walmart Apple headphone knockoffs. And I'll check my mixes on those too, just to see how they're going to sound to someone listening to this, on their phone or something. But yeah, I would probably recommend headphones most of the time unless you have a good room and the acoustic treatment to make it work with monitors. What you use to master tracks? I use a bunch of different stuff. Mastering, typically it depends on the track. I use Master Q2 a lot. I like Vintage Warmer a lot. I use a lot of different tools though. Again, it really comes down to what the track needs. Because mastering is kind of like mixing in a way. I've got to do a lot of different analysis to figure out what tools I need to apply on the master to get the best result. But if there's interest, maybe we could kind of save this and maybe do like a live mastering session in the future. I don't really consider myself like a mastering engineer by any means. I can sort of master a song, but it's probably not my, total profession. But yeah, maybe we could do that at some point in the future. How do I take out the extra breaths when mixing down my vocals? That's a great question. Breath editing is so much fun, said the mixing engineer. So what I would do, let's take a look at this lead vocal here for just a second. Let's find, I'm going to scale this way, way up so we can really see it here. Let's find a section where there's like some breaths or something.
Rest of the night.
So right here, we've got him, the vocalist, getting his breath ready for the next line. So what I would do is I'd find those sections, and I'm gonna hit the tilde key to unsnap to the grid, and I'm gonna highlight that, and then I'm just gonna delete it. So now,
Rest of the night. She's got a brand.
ta-da! We cut a little close there, so I'm gonna back that off a bit.
She's got.
So now we've gotten rid of that.
Right.
And we would just do this throughout the entire song. So we would listen in between these other sections. So there we've got some breathing and like gross mouth noises. So we'll highlight that and delete it. Check our edit.
Every time. Whoa, every time.
And we would do the same here. This looks like there's maybe a breath right here. So there's a tiny breath there. So we would go in and mute that, delete it, or we could use something like a noise gate. Just depends.
Is it too loud?
But this really depends too. You don't want to delete every breath, especially in more intimate genres. Like if this was, you know, like a singer-songwriter acoustic duo, that breathiness, again, it gives that authentic vibe. It sounds like someone is singing to me in my living room. And if that's the feel I'm going for, I'll leave all the breaths and squeaks and, you know, like chair noise and stuff like that in, because that's part of the track. So you've got to make sure you're not over-engineering. You've really got to think what you can do to serve the song and get the message across. So don't worry about hyper editing every little detail. Just do it if it's necessary. What audio interface do you use, or any outboard gear? I have a Motu Ultralight AVB right now. I have a new audio interface on the way because I'm not a super big fan of this one. I don't have any outboard gear anymore. I used to have outboard gear, but I personally think plugins have gotten so good that it's just almost not necessary. And I'm also in a home studio. I really just don't have space for all that cool outboard gear stuff anymore. And I found that the stuff I had just didn't make enough of a difference, especially considering the cost of maintenance and all that, to necessitate keeping it. I'd rather just use some plugins and stuff. And if I really need to do something involving outboard gear, I might go like book a studio or something, but that's really rare. I prefer to work here and just use plugins and work in the box. Share Ensemble Chorus plugins here. I don't know of any free Ensemble Chorus plugins. If someone else in the chat can help out though, a multi-voice Ensemble Chorus plugin, that would be awesome. Yeah, you might have to Google it though. I'm not totally sure offhand. Interesting answer. Well, I'm glad. Let's see. What else have we got here? Great mix. Pays to have talent in this business. Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, for an hour, I'm really happy with where we got, for sure. What is the best plugin to use on vocals for the best quality? Again, that's really subjective because it depends on the track. The best quality to a heavy metal, raw vocal versus like a very delicate, female vocal with a piano. Two very different approaches, and I would use really different tools. I would say the biggest things to get a good vocal sound is an EQ and a really good compressor. I would probably recommend an optical compressor for most vocals. I really like the sound of an optical compressor on vocals, just nice and round and warms it up a bit. Saturation too. A little bit of saturation can make a vocal sound great. We could try that here really quick too. So we've got just compression, EQ, de-esser, and then an extra EQ on top here on this vocal. So let's grab like a tape saturator. I just found a new one called Chow Tape, which is really good. Let's try this out.
Went to the party alley. We came back before dark. This is nothing but a joke. I've been thinking.
And now we've got that really aggressive, like indie rock vibe. So let's compensate with the gain.
Went to the party alley. We came back before.
So now we've got this kind of aggressive crunch to the vocal, and in the mix. So that really kind of, vibes up the vocal. So yeah, EQ, compressor, and probably a saturator, and some nice reverbs and delays. Reverbs and delays are really important for vocals. Let's see, what other questions have we got here? I'm trying to make sure I'm caught up. Great podcast, going to be a regular thing. We will try to do more live streams. I hope to host some more for sure. Any plans for Mixcraft and Acoustica merch? I have no idea, but that would be cool. Joined late. EQ to a known song. I used a plugin called Kilohertz Slice EQ, and it has some built-in profiles, and you can also load your own. So like when I'm mixing my music, I have some references in here that I made myself by just loading in songs. But yeah, I use this, and compared to Coacheyes by Audioslave. I'm pretty sure that's Coacheyes, whatever. It's an Audioslave song. Just a nice kind of modern rock song that's sort of in the same ballpark. But normally I would probably load a profile of something a little more similar. So the reference I gave earlier at the stream is a band called Collective Soul, and they had a Blue album. I think it was like mid-90s. So I would probably use that as my reference for this because it has a very similar vibe. And maybe Huey Lewis and the News too, because the vocalist here sounds a lot like Huey Lewis to me. What do you suggest for mixing headphones? I would probably say any headphones that are around $200 to $300 US dollars. I think pretty much anything in that price range is a really safe bet. You can get some cheaper ones too. I think Sony makes some good cheap ones. Sennheiser, I use Sennheiser headphones. They have some really good ones too. But I find, like I said, right around $200 to $300 US is the sweet spot. Just do some research beforehand. Just make sure they're mixing headphones. I think Sennheiser's always been my go-to. I really like Sennheiser, and Beyerdynamic as another pretty well-known brand. Let's see. DT770 Pro headphones. Yeah, those are good ones. 990s too, and 1990s are pretty popular. Warm audio mix bus compressor. I have not. Let's see, make sure I got all my questions here. Really enjoyed your presentation. Where did you get your training? I learned everything myself. I went to music school for about a year. I didn't finish. I didn't really like it. Like I said, though, the book I really recommend and where I've learned a lot from is called Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio by Mike Sr. And these stems are actually from that book. There's a huge online resource to download a bunch of different stems and a bunch of different styles. But yeah, I just learned everything myself. With things like YouTube, Google, reading books, checking out forums, Reddit and other sites, just a lot of practice. I made a lot of very, very bad mixes. And then eventually I got better at not making bad mixes. So that's pretty much it, just practice, just like anything else. Studio interface you can use for Mixcraft. Any audio interface that offers high quality AD/DA conversion. Yeah, if you can get some decent-ish audio interface that has a decent sample rate and bit depth, it's pretty much all you need. A lot of audio interfaces anymore are really good. I would just try and pick something that has good preamps if you intend to record into it. A condenser mic into a Focusrite ISA through a compressor back to the interface. Yeah, the ISAs are amazing for sure. Virtual chorus mixing for church, integrated Melodyne with Mixcraft is a game changer. Yeah, the Melodyne is really nice. I think probably I would use Melodyne too on this vocal just a tiny bit. There's a couple spots that are just a little loose. It's a really good performance though, but I try to avoid tuning vocals as much as possible, but Melodyne is really nice to work with. Chow tape, you can Google chow tape and get it off of GitHub. Terrific event. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Doubler from Waves. Yeah, Doubler is a good one. I know of that one. Let's see. Collective Soul, Light Shine. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shine is a great track. Yeah, I think that was from the Blue album, too. One question. When I open up Good Hertz effects in Mixcraft, it always crashes. What can I do? You can contact Acoustica support. I have no idea. That could be any number of things, but Acoustica support should be able to help you with that. Pete Townsend. I guess I could hear Pete Townsend. Use Beatcraft. Will there be any workshops in the future for Beatcraft? I don't know, but I can definitely note that down. Or maybe we could do like some beat making stuff. That would be fun. When you use the parametric EQ to subtract, do you use another EQ to boost? What other EQ? I don't boost and then subtract on the same thing, but like I said, I do complementary EQ a lot. It's a great technique. Very quickly showed that earlier here. So we've got the lead vocal, boosted some high end and took out some low mids, and on the backing vocal, boosted some low mids and took out some high end. So it's same EQ, just TB parametric built right into Mixcraft. Pimp your site and content. Well, I mean, my name is Cameron, Venus Theory, that's me. You can look me up and find more if you would like to. When is Mixcraft 10 coming out? I don't know, and hopefully it's soon. I'm very excited to see what's next in the new versions of Mixcraft. Mixcraft 10 on the horizon next year. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but we will see. I'm sure it's going to be cool. Having a problem when subtracting with EQ, you lose thickness, can't seem to make it full again. So that's something I showed here. Let's show that again just really, really quick. And then, yeah, we've got a couple more minutes for questions, everyone. So if you got questions, now is the time. And yeah, if you missed the stream as well, this whole thing will be reposted so you can rewatch the entire thing. So let's talk about EQ and making things not sound thin. So I'm actually gonna bypass that EQ, and we're gonna EQ the lead vocal all over again. So one of the things when you EQ things is you have to ask yourself why you're EQing it. You can't just throw an EQ on and do stuff. There's got to be a point. I mean, there's stuff in this mix I didn't EQ. You don't need to EQ everything. You know, you just got to add it if it's needed. So let's take a listen to this vocal, and I'm going to disable these sends really quick just so we're not hearing those.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night.
Oh, let's make sure we have the other EQ and saturator bypassed. So let's listen to this vocal.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it.
So one of the things I hear here is if you listen to the vocal, we get a lot of p, 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 that kind of thing. So we've got a lot of low end. So I'm going to cut out the low end. So I'm going to go to band 1, low cut. Now what I'm going to do is ask myself, how much low do I need to cut out? Because I'm not just cutting lows. I'm eliminating a problem. I'm addressing something in the mix. And I need to do as little as I can to do that. That's the secret. A lot of the time is doing the smallest adjustment you possibly can to fix the problem. If you do too much, it's too obvious and it's going to sound weird. Especially on a human voice, because our ears are very good at knowing when a voice sounds wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a low cut, and I'm going to bring it up really high until it's too much and the vocal sounds thin and cheap, and then we're going to back it off to bring in a bit of that fullness.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all
so
in,
there,
then fight about it every night.
We've got rid of the problem, but now it almost sounds like it's coming through like a cell phone or something. So now we're going to back off, we're going to go back down, and we're going to find the point where we're starting to round it off, but we're not hearing the problem anymore, which is that really low, explosive energy.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in, then fight about it every night.
So there, we've eliminated the problem, but the vocal still sounds natural. So what's my next problem? Why am I EQing this?
Baby's got a porcelain doll.
So one of the next problems is that it sounds kind of like, it just sounds like someone's kind of talking into a box or something. So I want to get rid of that. I want to make the voice clear. So to do that, I'm going to grab another band of EQ. I'm going to increase it, and I'm going to find that like tone, which is kind of like a lower sound. So I know it's going to be in the lower side of things.
Gonna scratch new skin, gonna
And there
keep
it is.
it all in, then gonna scratch.
So it's got this really ugly boxy frequency. So now we're going to take that and we're going to dip it down back to 0. And again, we're going to make as small of an adjustment as we can to eliminate the problem.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna keep it all in.
And now that vocal's sounding a lot more clear. Finally, I want a bit more high end. I want a nice pop sheen to the vocal.
All in, then fight about it every night. Whoa, every night.
And that's all I've done. I mean, I've done, what, 2 dB of EQ here, 4 dB of EQ there, and a low cut. And we've taken a vocal from this.
Baby's got a porcelain doll, gonna scratch new skin, gonna
turn it to
keep
this.
it all in, then fight about it every night. Whoa, every night.
It's that simple. So yeah, just little tiny adjustments. Pultec style EQs. Pultec EQs are great. I do love Pultec EQs for sure. Coming back to Mixcraft 9 Pro gets the job done without multiple keystrokes. It is really nice to work with. I mean, we just mixed a song in like an hour. Pretty hard to debate that. All right. Let's see if we've got any more questions here. Make sure I'm not missing anything else because we're about out of time. The drive button on the mixer, I did not. I actually got rid of it. I didn't need it. So I actually turned off a lot of the features of the mixer because I just want to mix with faders. I want to mix with my faders and get it as good as I can and then do as little as I can with other stuff. So just, you know, some basic EQs and compressors and stuff. And for the drive, I use some third-party stuff. I use this thing called Punisher from Denise on the guitars just because it has kind of an aggressive fuzzy tone. And the drive in the Mixcraft console is almost more like a tube drive, and I didn't really want that. I wanted more of like a, you know, crunchy, fizzy drive. And then for the other stuff, we used a Chow tape for a tape saturator, and then another kind of tape saturator type thing here from a Kilohertz Distortion. So different distortions and stuff, you know, give you pretty different results. So in this case, we didn't use the built-in one because I had a kind of a different end goal in mind. Let's see if we've got any other questions here before we wrap it up. Hopefully I didn't miss too many. Looks like we're mostly caught up. My version 9 has a lot of static. Any suggestions? It could be background noise. It's really hard to say. I would have to kind of see the exact setup. The tech support folks should be able to help with that, though, if you reach out to Mixcraft support. I would guess it might be gain staging, too. If you're recording too quiet and you have to lift it up, you're also going to lift up any ambient noise in the recording. So, like, right now, there's not much background noise here, but if I was talking really quiet and we raised up the volume, then you're just going to hear this, like, of, you know, like the air conditioner and stuff like that. So, yeah, maybe double check your gain staging and stuff. And, yeah, I would probably touch base with the support, too, just in case there's something else going on. Thanks so much for the stream. Yeah, no problem. When using faders, isn't it the same as adding distortion or distortion plugins? I rarely touch my faders. No. Fader is controlling the volume level or the amplitude of a signal. Distortion is going to add harmonics to a signal. So it's two very different things. So the faders are what we're going to use to balance out the sound and make sure everything sits together in terms of volume or amplitude. And a distortion is going to add harmonics to a signal and make it sound louder, make it sound warmer, make it sound fuzzy or aggressive. Just depends on the type of distortion. Great live stream. Well, glad to hear it. Yeah, hopefully we'll do another one soon. Are there any analog emulations within Mixcraft that could be used in an unintended fashion for saturation effects? Tape delay being used as a saturator. I believe the TB multi effects Kind of has some fun ones. Yeah, it's got the saturate, compress, and whatever. So you can combine the compression with the saturator to get kind of a destroyed drive sound. It's hard to describe. It's a little weird. And then there's the Ferox or Faro. I don't know if it's Ferox or Faro. I call it Ferox. This is just a tape emulator, so it is just a direct saturation thing, but you can really, really crank it, again, with the compression and the drive and the saturator, and it'll absolutely destroy anything you feed it, so that's kind of fun. Thank you, Mixcraft, Acoustic, and Venus there. Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Venus there. No problem at all. Do you mix to a mastering preset, mastering tools? Preset. Yeah, no. I always mix without mastering stuff applied. I might have like a limiter on the session though, just in case there's any random volume spikes, but I'll always mix without that. So let me just actually disengage all this. And I think that's a pretty important thing to do too, because it gives you an idea of the raw sound, and then you're not trying to fix things with tools you already have on the master chain. You want to get the mix to sound as good as you can. I'm sorry, I don't know why my nose is running right now. So without all the mastering stuff on it here, let me grab the limiter. So I've got a limiter just on the very end here, just in case there's any weird volume spikes in the mix. Just got to reactivate all this. So this will take just a second. So without any of the mastering stuff, we've got a pretty good sounding mix overall. And that's what I want to make sure first of.
'Cause this is so serious. It ain't right. Do your big time shit, come pull it back again. Oh.
So that's with no anything on the master bus. And I want to make sure that by itself sounds really good. And that way when I do my mastering stuff, it's going to sound incredible. I want a mix to sound as good as I can possibly get it before I start trying to fix anything. Because mastering isn't about fixing stuff, it's about enhancing it. So here, all I've got is just one limiter on the very end with the output gain or the ceiling at -1, just to make sure that if I accidentally, move a fader, because I've done that before where I bump something, and then I get like a, explosion of noise. This is a great way just to make sure everything's good. So then I'll start adding my mastering stuff. So like a glue compressor here.
'Cause this is so serious. It ain't right. Do your big time shit, come pull it back.
Master EQ.
I'm back again.
And then my limiter.
Went to the party alley. We can't.
And that's really it. Cheap compared to other DAWs. It's awesome. I know, I have the same question. Mixcraft is actually really, really powerful and really, really slept on. Obviously. Will this video be here after the stream? Sorry, I came late. No problem. Yeah, you can watch the whole thing later. Need to do this again. Several tips. Thank you. No problem. Glad to hear it. Yeah, I hope this was fun. I hope this gives everyone some ideas and hopefully gives you some inspiration going into the weekend to go make something awesome this weekend. Frontier limiter is good on the master. Yeah, Frontier is a really great one. So I think that wraps everything up in terms of time here. We're out of time. That was about an hour and a half, and we've got our mix done. I hope, like I said, I hope this inspires you to go out and make something great this weekend in Mixcraft or whatever you want to do. Try something new. Try maybe integrate some of these tips. If you think this mix sounds terrible, you can get the stems from this mix session and do it yourself and make it way better than I can, and just go do something fun this weekend. If you want to learn more about mixing and a lot more stuff about the process, again, there's this book called Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio by Mike Sr. It's one of my favorite books about mixing and everything about the mixing process. You can check that out. All of these stems are available from the Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio link website, where you can get this entire session to practice this exact song yourself if you want to try it out. There's a ton of other songs too for electronic and pop and rap and dubstep and like trance and everything else. You can try all that out. Mixcraft, there's a sale going on right now as well, holiday sale. If you want to upgrade or update to the newer versions, or you don't have Mixcraft and you want to pick it up, everything's on sale right now until December 27th or 28th, I believe. So you can check that out as well. So let's make sure we are wrapped up with everything else here, and then we're going to call it a day. Great info. Thank you. Glad everyone enjoyed it. The name of the book, one of the moderators can hopefully link that for me. The Mixing Secrets book. I can grab that if we don't have that. Is music your full-time job or a hobby? Music is my job. This is actually what I do. I do music stuff, sound design, and video content and stuff like this. So music is my job now. It took a very long time to get there, though. Best online events I've ever attended, and I've attended. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad. Yeah, like I said, hopefully, everyone gets inspired, learned something, or thought this was terrible and wants to prove me wrong. So, I hope everyone goes out and makes something awesome this weekend. Let me grab that link to that book. If someone else can find it. Oh, I actually don't have my links open right now because I'm streaming. Unfortunately, I don't have that. Let me see if I can grab that really quick for you. Always make sure you've got hydration in the studio, too. My vocal cords are like on fire right now. There we go. And we'll paste that link in right there. That is where you can get the book. There's the link for you. So I think that wraps everything up for this one, guys. So thank you again. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. My name is Cameron, also known as Venus Theory, also known as the Mixcraft guy. I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I hope to see you again very soon.